Hello, my name's Julie Wilson, and I wanted to share what I did for a brain dump for the PMP exam. It's based on PMBOK's 5th edition, but it's easily modified for future editions. Why would we even want to do a brain dump? Well, when we write things down repetitively, our brains can learn that information and lock it in, even if everything in the prep dump isn't written at test time. And it can help on the PMP exam by giving you that locked-in information on a piece of paper. And this is great for everyone, but especially those who have test anxiety. So what I did to prepare is in 2014, I took an in-person class, I read the books, and then I procrastinated and didn't take the exam. In 2016, I rinsed and repeated it with an online class. Then this year, I went ahead and reread books and looked at some videos online. Then, most importantly, I started and just kept improving a brain dump. And then I took several practice exams using it, and I passed. So what's in a brain dump? It's going to be different for everyone based on skills and knowledge. And as you go through each chapter, you'll see what you need to include. But some of the key elements of every brain dump should include all of the processes and how they interact with each other, ITTOs, inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs, formulas, and motivational and communication theories. So how do you remember everything? Well, muscle memory is huge. Just write it down daily for weeks before the exam. Also mnemonics, like I saw two crows quietly having coffee, reading poetic sonnets. Those are the knowledge areas. But use things that speak to you. You can rename difficult things. Hertzberg's hygiene theory becomes clean rental cars. Amusing terms, things that make you laugh. Visual, numerical patterns. Also, you can sing a song. I won't do that here. Big question, will you have time to do this during the exam? The answer is most likely. It really depends on how much information you need to put on paper. You can also time yourself before the actual exam. And keep in mind that while dumps previously were allowed to be done during the introduction to the computer-based exam, they aren't anymore, but you'll still have time. Does this table look familiar to you? I hope so, because you'll need to know the process groups, knowledge areas, and processes intimately before you start this presentation or your dump. So with a pencil and paper, just start by writing the first letters of each of the knowledge areas and the process groups. I also included the numbers of the processes in each of these process groups. And on this slide, just for illustration purposes, I also included the mnemonic that I used to remember the knowledge areas, and also the silly word that I used to remember the process groups, which was hippamacaque. Here's the same slide, just without the mnemonics. Then, in this slide, I took out the number 2 because we know in initiation and in closing, there are only 2 processes in those process groups. I left the 24, 8, and 11 on planning, executing, and monitoring and controlling. At this point, just keep repeating this step until you can do it without any errors or peeking. The next step is to start writing the number of processes in each box in the yellow section you see here. We just create the frame. We start with 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, go down the side, zeros, till we get to a 1, another 0, 1's at the bottom, and then up again with zeros on the left. Now, when you repeat this in your head while you do it, that will also help cement your learning. And I write the zeros so that I can have room for more notes later. Just keep repeating the steps that you've learned so far. one of the things we talked about was looking for patterns on how to remember everything. So inside the frame that we already have started, I noticed that the next to last row, we have 3 ones. Then we move up 2, 3 more ones, and move up 2 more, 3 more ones. Next step, writing 463 in these boxes, then 0, 0, 0, and then 2, 1, 1. And the last step in filling in the numbers, 130 and 501 in the last 6 empty boxes. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to start making shortcuts for the processes, and we start with the easy ones and the exceptions. And we're doing this mainly for everything that is below the integration knowledge area, so below this row, with one exception, always an exception. Everything in planning that has a 1 is going to be a P. You can see that all here. In closing, we know that the 2 closing processes are closing, so we put a C. In control, everything with the 1 down here is a control, so we put a C. In executing, we've got 2 manage processes, and now come the exceptions to those easy rules. IDing stakeholders, conducting procurements, and performing quality assurance. So now it might get a little confusing. If you didn't think it was confusing already, just follow me here. For the processes that we don't already have filled in, such as these, we need to create acronyms. So you'll see the acronyms that I created over here in the yellow boxes on the left. All you're going to do is write those down. Whatever helps you remember them. You can work on a mnemonic or a rhythm. Also notice that the number of those letters also follows the number of processes in that particular knowledge area. All right, now we're just going to move the letters over into what I have highlighted here. And because you're familiar with the table from the PMBOK guide with all the knowledge areas and process groups, these should make sense to you. Okay, at this point, you are just going to fill in enough information to help you remember the non-obvious processes so that you can remember them. If you take a look at cost, for instance, we've got plan, obviously a P, estimate costs, and determine budget. That's how I remembered it. Develop project charter. Develop project management plan. Whatever helps you remember each of the non-obvious processes. So you're going to be really glad that I did not handwrite the entire presentation, because look at that handwriting. This was my final brain dump. What I did was, after the last slide we just looked at, I added important inputs and outputs of each process. And when you do that, you're going to see patterns like work performance data feeds into the controlling processes, and work performance information and change requests come out of them. So you can see all of the patterns when you write these down. Did I use these on my brain dump during the exam? Heck no. That just is too much stuff to try to remember to write down. But writing it down before, during the practice exams, really helped me get an understanding of how these work together. I didn't have time for this, so I didn't do it. All right, here's the last step, formulas. So much fun. The thing I wanted to show here, because I'm assuming that everybody understands all of these formulas, so I'm not teaching them to you, is how they show up. This particular way of presenting earned values really helped because I didn't have to memorize specific formulas. It was just easier to see that in that way, and also that CPI is the opposite of CPI. I also see a pattern with estimate at completion here, and just writing them out in the same order every time, it will make it a whole lot easier to remember them. Down here for sigma, the first two are intersecting highways near me. You've got other formulas that you need to know, how SWOT looks, and also your power influence grid. Tuckman seems to be a favorite on the exam. These are just ways that I learned to remember some of the motivational theories that you may see on the exam. Okay, real quick, just a few other notes. The video that's linked in this slide, I'll put that into the description of this video that you're watching. I'm not going to read this whole slide to you, so if you want the information on it, just hit pause, but it's some information about the electronic exam that's helpful, also what kind of pencils and paper you're going to get. Finally, just a few other tips. These are things that I think helped me. Just how to take care of your body and how to nourish your mind, really, because that's what's helping you get through this exam. Hit pause and read them if you like. I hope this helped you. Let me know about any kind of questions or comments you might have in the comments. Thank you.